Green flags in relationships go way beyond just consistency and good communication. There are underrated signs of a great partner that some of us overlook. In this episode, I'm breaking down the unexpected green flags you should be paying attention to in early dating and later in relationships, as well as red flags to not miss. I'm also going to challenge you to help you recognize and embody these green flags in your relationships as well. Welcome back to Dating Intentionally. I'm Talia. I'm sharing no nonsense advice for navigating dating and relationships with confidence and ease, whether you've been dating for a while or you're just starting out. I believe dating can be fun, especially when we learn to notice what green flags are present in our relationships. And who knows, you might hear something in this episode that's a green flag that you completely missed with someone you've been with for a while or someone you're newly dating. And don't worry, we will talk about the red flags too. So, I've done a few episodes on green flags in dating and relationships. And this episode is going to be more of like a part two, like a deeper dive into certain things that I think are a little bit more subtle. And you definitely need to, it's like you need to know they exist in order to see them. And if you want to go back and listen to some of my previous episodes that cover the more overarching green flags like consistency, respect, listening, effort, and communication, I'm going to link them in the show notes because those are some of my most popular episodes for a reason. We've got to know what we're looking for, and we have to know if we are embodying these green flags too, right? If you're in a relationship and you want something from your partner, you need to make sure that you can give it as well. So let's dive right in here. I have 10 subtle green flags for you, as well as their red flag counterpart. And as you listen, I would love for you to think about if you embody these things, if you need to work on these things. And if you do, that's okay. We all need to work on something, or no one's a perfect partner. No one's going to have these 100%, right? Okay, let's jump in. The first one on this list is that they handle your vulnerabilities with care. So that means that they honor your past struggles and insecurities and they make you feel safe, supported, and never judged. So this is kind of a two-parter because if someone is handling your vulnerabilities with care, it also means that they've created a safe space for you to share those vulnerabilities. And of course, you would have had to feel the security within yourself to share your vulnerabilities. So let's assume that has already happened. And in addition to that, they are not using the vulnerable things you've told them, the things you're scared of, the things that keep you up at night. They're not using those things against you. And this does really come down to trust. Like, if you can trust someone enough to share, that's great. But can you trust them enough to not use that information against you? So, this isn't necessarily a one for one example, but here's something that when I was writing this episode came up for me. And that is that my husband, Johnny, has learned that I'm a much happier partner and person when I'm not hungry. Can you relate? So, what does that look like? Instead of getting angry at me or upset with me or making fun of me or just whatever negative thing, for me being a hungry person all the time and kind of getting hangry pretty often. Instead of doing that and trying to change this about me, he keeps snacks for me everywhere in his car, in his travel bag, in his jackets. Of course, I do my best to bring snacks with me. I don't just rely on his stash. But honestly, I love this. He makes me feel so safe and supported in this way. And I feel very accepted, not judged by this thing that I have where if I don't eat like every few hours, I'm a monster. And other ways that he does this, and again, I'm just sharing from my relationship to kind of illustrate this, but other ways he does this is like he can tell at this point when I'm triggered and he'll kind of reach out and be like, "Hey, are you feeling a little triggered right now?" In another version of our lives or with another partner, someone, the opposite of this, the red flag version of this is like they're like, "Oh, you're triggered again." Like, "Of course you are. You would be. You're always making it about you." Like, I think if your partner is showing you that they know you're human, you have emotions, they give you space for those emotions and they're handling your emotions with care, that's a huge green flag. And that's why I wanted to start with this one because I feel like it is definitely something we don't talk about enough. Like, how are they responding to your emotions? And then how are they using that information in the future? Are they using that information to inform themselves on how to be a better partner? Or are they using that information to twist the knife and kind of highlight your flaws? By the way, having emotions is not having a flaws, okay? On the red flag side, if they weaponize your vulnerabilities, meaning they bring up your past struggles or insecurities and arguments and use them to manipulate you, that is just no, we are not settling for that. And the only relationship I've experienced this with is my relationship with my dad. He loves to weaponize vulnerabilities and it sucks. And so if your partner does this, it's a huge red flag. Now, how do you know if you embody this green flag? Well, I would invite you to reflect on your maybe your friendships, family relationships, current relationship, past relationship, and think about what you've done with the information around someone's emotions, right? When you've learned about a vulnerability or insecurity of someone else, are you handling it with care? Are you keeping that in mind when you move through conflict? Definitely something to think about. And again, I just want to remind you, if you don't do this perfectly, it's okay. It starts with awareness. All right, the second one on this list is that they're supportive when you want time alone. And maybe you're not the kind of person who needs a ton of alone time. I am, and I'm in a relationship with someone who loves quality time. So it's definitely been something to navigate. But if they don't take it personally when you say, hey, I want to hang out with my friends, or hey, I need an afternoon or an evening to myself, that's great. And I remember early in dating, when before I even met Johnny, he actually offered to do another video call with me. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to pass this time. I'm feeling like I need time to recharge. I'm super tired at the end of this workday. Like, no, I said no. And he was like, I totally relate. All good. Let's do it another time. Didn't take it personally. He just kind of took it in stride. And we, of course, ended up connecting on more video calls and phone calls after that. Like, it was such a green flag that he didn't take that as a, like, I never want to talk to you again. Ugh, it was such a, like, a weight off my shoulders, honestly, when in that moment. I do really remember that. How someone acts in early dating is very indicative of how they're going to be as a partner. Of course, I'm putting a little asterisk on that if they're a love bomber, assuming they're not a love bomber. How they treat you early on is going to be reflective of how they treat you later. So even today, like if I need a whole Saturday to myself where, I'm maybe going to the gym and getting a nice coffee, going to the thrift store and doing errands, all by myself for the whole day, Johnny is not going to take that personally. And that is a huge green flag. Why is this so important in relationships? Well, you need to maintain your independence to maintain your sense of self within your relationship. It is so easy to lose each other in a relationship because your lives get so enmeshed in a way, especially if you live together and when you're married and stuff. It's like you kind of don't know where you end and they begin at a certain point. And we want to avoid that. So I think actively working to carve out time for yourself, even though it can be challenging because there's so much else, other things going on, is really important to have a healthy sex life, to maintain a sense of self, and it's also good to like miss each other sometimes. Go have experiences separate from each other so you have something to talk about? Of course, the red flag version of this is if they are possessive over your time and they make a big fuss if you want to go out with your friends, spend time with your family, or just take a night to yourself or whatever it is. If they act up, that is a red flag. And it's worth asking them if this comes up like, hey, why is me spending time with myself so difficult for you? Like, maybe you can find a better way to ask it, but just kind of asking them what is coming up for them. What are they going through when they're like acting possessive or maybe being passive aggressive and making comments about you spending time alone? Maybe guilting you into spending time with them or guilting you into spending time away from your friends, right? If you feel like they're trying to take you away from your friends and your life, they're probably not the right person and or that just needs to be addressed. Independence can be a little uncomfortable, and I understand that people have different thresholds for this in relationships. Some people need more alone time than others. Some people are more comfortable with separation than others. So if you're dating someone right now, I think it's absolutely worth having a conversation around how much alone time do you need and how much time do you expect to spend with each other? How would you feel if I, instead of hanging out, went to hang out with my friends? Have these discussions, feel it out, see where you align and see where you don't. If you don't know how your partner reacts to this, I recommend, doing this. Go have a day for yourself, go take some time for yourself and see how they react if you're not sure if they embody this green flag or not. And on the other side, are you embodying this green flag? How do you react when they want to spend time with their friends or by themselves? Do you feel yourself kind of digging your nails in and tightening your grip on them? Or do you feel yourself being like, oh, that's all cool. Good. I get to spend time with myself then. Or I get to do my own thing while you're doing your own thing. Definitely a good gut check to take on that. All right. The third underrated green flag I have on this list is that they introduce you to things they love without expecting you to love them too. So I love this because this is a subtle way of accepting you as a partner. This is a subtle way of letting you be who you are. And they are not counting on you, loving the thing that they love. They're not gonna take it personally if you aren't as into it. Like, let's just say they love camping and you're, like, lukewarm on it, and you try it with them, and you're like, "You know what? I'd be happy if we never did that again." That's cool. Like, if they're like, "Hey, I get it, I can go camping with my friends," totally fine. I mean, gosh, I did this with Johnny. I took him skiing one time. We did a lesson together, and he did it. He was a champ. He actually wasn't that bad, for his first time on skis, but it's just not his jam. It's just not something he wants to do. It's not something he craves like me, and I don't take that personally. I went into the relationship fully knowing that he didn't have the ski bug like I had. So this is a huge green flag to look out for. You want someone who is excited to show you the things they love, but not attached to the outcome of you loving it. If you don't love it, still cool, right? It's fine. On the red flag side, if they expect you to love everything they love and pressure you to like it and do it, even if you have said that you're not into it, that's a red flag. That's not a fun relationship to be in. I think it's good to share interests, but hey, if you're not into each other's interests, you're not doomed. And I do have a whole episode on that. I will link in the show notes, all about compatibility and shared interests. So take a listen if you want more information on that. But if they take it personally that you are not as into the things they're into, and they're kind of maybe they're guilting you into doing it, they're passive aggressive about it, they mock you or fault you for this, make you feel dumb for not liking that. I mean, no, red flag. And then, of course, on the other side, for you, when was the last time you introduced your partner to something or someone you're dating to something and they didn't have the reaction you expected? How did you feel and what did you do? Did you accept it or were you kind of pouty about it? Think about it. Let me know. Okay, moving along, the next green flag is that they don't just apologize, they adjust. So, we've talked a lot about the importance of taking accountability in relationships and being able to apologize, admit you're wrong, all that stuff. But we're looking for something a little more than that here. We're looking for the adjustment that, okay, I was wrong and I'm going to change this behavior. I did something that made you upset, and next time I'm going to act differently. We're looking for not just the words, but the actions. That's just the biggest green flag ever. Like someone who's willing to have the awareness to acknowledge your feelings, to make your feelings important enough, and then to adjust their behavior. Oh my God, we love to see it. And I want to say that if you have had a conflict with someone and they apologize and you can see them trying to make the adjustment, but they're not necessarily nailing it, I still think that counts. We can't expect people to be perfect at it every time. If they need to be reminded a few times, that's okay, especially when they're learning a new behavior or habit or something, or they're trying to change something that they haven't really tried to change before. It's okay if they need a few reminders. So I'm encouraging you not to get too frustrated if you're finding that you are having to remind them of things. I'll share an example in my relationship that happened recently. A few weeks ago, I brought this thing up to Johnny where I was bothered by the fact that sometimes I would tell him things that I was really excited about, or like maybe say things that are nice or sweet. And his response was just, okay, okay, like flat. And it really was getting under my skin. I was like, man, like, I get that you're not ignoring me. Like, this is better than ignoring me, but I feel like I could just be talking to a brick wall. And I called him out, like, "Hey, I've noticed you've been doing this." So lately, he apologized. Obviously, he didn't know he doesn't want to make me feel dismissed. And he has gotten to a point where he still says okay, but then he adds something, like he catches himself. He's like, okay, and then he like adds a comment. And so, look, is it perfect? No, but it's a lot better. And I see his effort and I see the adjustment. It works both ways. He's commented on my phone use and social media use, especially when we're in the car together. He doesn't like when I'm on the phone in the car and I have to make a conscious effort to put it down. Sometimes he does have to remind me if I'm using my phone. And again, I'm so addicted to my phone that I do this absentmindedly. I don't even realize when I'm opening up Instagram. And he'll be like, okay, so what's on Instagram today? And that kind of calls me out to like put the phone down and be present in the moment. So it's okay to have these guardrails up with each other. Like we're not always going to get it right, but putting in the effort to make that adjustment is huge. So on the red flag side, if they get defensive or apologize but don't change, that's a red flag. Saying sorry, sorry, sorry over and over and not ever changing your behavior or at least trying, like at least putting in a little bit of effort, if they're not doing that, that's a red flag. And that is such a bummer. I would definitely, if that is the case right now, if you're dealing with that, I would call it out and be like, you know what? We've actually run into this a few times. You've apologized a few times, and I appreciate that. But I haven't really been seeing any changes. Let's talk about it. What is the barrier for you here? And you can kind of get more of an understanding of why you haven't seen a change and what can be done, if anything. Sometimes, unfortunately, they can't. Sometimes people just can't or won't step up to change. And that's one of the hard truths about relationships. And, thinking about if you embody this, think about times that someone has called you out on something, or you had to apologize for something you said or did wrong. Did you change your behavior? Did you put effort towards changing your behavior? Maybe if it's not perfect, did you make sure to make a different choice the next time that thing came up? If that's what you're looking for in someone, that's also something that you have to do and be able to do. All right, the next green flag I have for you is that they celebrate with you and don't get weirdly competitive. So, you are looking for a partner who can celebrate your wins and success without getting competitive or knocking you down in any way. You want someone who's going to take you out to dinner and find a way to celebrate your wins, maybe like bust out the wine, or, do something that acknowledges your even the smallest win, right? If it's meaningful but small. This is one of the most fun things about having a partner. And of course, your job here is to share your success and brag about yourself a little bit and call out your own wins, because your partner might not necessarily know without you telling them. So as long as you're doing that and they're meeting your excitement, they're matching that energy. There are so many different ways to recognize your partner's success. So, it might not, maybe they're not jumping to plan a celebratory dinner, but they're doing something else. Maybe they're writing a card. Maybe they're just giving you a big hug and a big kiss and saying, I'm so proud of you. Maybe they just are asking you a lot of questions. There are a lot of different ways to, again, dig into to your partner's success. And you can test this out in early dating by sharing a win you had. What, again, big or small. The win could be that you worked out 4 times this week, or that you paid off your car, which by the way, I just did recently. Super happy about it. The win could be that you hit your step goal for the day. I don't know. Test this out by you sharing these things on dates. It's a really good way to get a little vulnerable, share something positive, and see what their reaction is. Do they, kind of match your energy, or do they knock it down? So on the red flag side, if they compete with you instead of supporting you, or if they don't really acknowledge your success or wins, that's a red flag. My one example that I'll never forget is when I hit a massive revenue goal of my previous company. Like, it was the most my company had ever earned in a day. My ex barely cared or acknowledged it, and I felt so shitty. It just was like so anticlimactic. Your partner's supposed to be the person that you are so excited to share good news with, and when they kind of just are deadpan about it, it is such a crappy feeling. Meanwhile, with my husband, when I sold my company, and Johnny and I were dating, we talked at length about how we were going to celebrate. And we ended up going on this incredibly memorable dinner to this amazing Kaseki Japanese place in Seattle. And it was just like a 180, you know? So when it comes to you, if you embody this green flag, I recommend thinking about how you have celebrated and supported your partner in their wins, or how you want to celebrate and support someone when they are sharing success with you. Moving along, the next green flag I have is that they work to understand you. So instead of reacting or dismissing, they genuinely try to see things from your perspective. So this might not look like asking questions. It could just be listening and letting you talk things through. It could also be repeating what you're saying in their own words. It could also just be saying that they understand and really, making eye contact with you and being present with you as you talk. It's not necessarily going to be always asking questions to understand. Sometimes they might not need to ask more questions. Sometimes they just might need to show you that they're present and they're listening and they're not fighting back. They're not being oppositional. They're not playing devil's advocate. They are validating you by understanding you. The red flag version of this is if they dismiss your perspective. So, like I said, playing devil's advocate, arguing with you to no end, being oppositional for the sake of being oppositional. And again, I think in relationships, in friendships, in all relationships, there are going to be things that you fundamentally don't agree on, but you can still empathize and understand. You can understand someone without agreeing with them. There is a difference. And that's why this green flag is subtle. I'm not saying your partner needs to agree with you on everything. They might not even relate to you on a lot of things, but they need to at least be able to understand on a basic level what you're going through and what you're talking about. So if they don't even hear you out, if they refuse to even hear your point of view or admit that what you're saying is true or valid, I mean, you can't be in a relationship with that person. You can't communicate with that person. You need to, if they don't have the skills to get on the same page about things, it's so hard to move forward in any conflict. Again, it's not about agreeing, it's not about changing each other's minds, it's just understanding. I would say this isn't a red flag, this is actually a deal breaker. So when it comes to figuring this out in early dating, I mean, I think this is tough because you're not really going to know if they have this green flag in early dating unless you do hit something you disagree on or have conflict or hit a topic that you have more lived experience with that maybe they don't understand as much. So it might not be as clear in the first few dates until you are getting into some of these deeper, headier topics. So just keep that in mind in early dating. But once you're in those conversations, I think it's pretty clear if someone is able to listen to you and understand you or not. And of course, you've got to be able to do this too. If you are in a conversation with someone and you can't accept their point of view as valid, even if you don't agree with it, it's going to be tough to be in a relationship. Another green flag to look out for that's kind of subtle is that they respect how you show love, not just how they want to receive it. So, this is kind of about love languages. Let's break this down. If you're someone like me who is a words person and you love to show love by telling people things like compliments, appreciation, just all the things through words, if they respect that, even if they're not necessarily a words person, that's great. If they reject this and only want love from you the way they want to receive it, that's going to be a tough relationship. So back to my words example, like this is the reality of my relationship. Johnny is not a words person. Compliments and appreciation just don't hit him the way it hits me. Like, I love hearing things. I love handwritten cards. I love, that's why I'm always like, give me comments because I just love hearing from you. I'm such a words person. But he has definitely learned to make this adjustment and receive compliments and appreciation and verbal affirmation from me. Even though it doesn't do much for him, he has absolutely learned to receive this type of love. And I have learned to receive his type of love, which is more about quality time. Personally, there are definitely times when he wants to hang out and I would rather be working because if you're an entrepreneur, you probably relate, but it's like, I just want to work all the time. I also love what I do. And, like, sometimes I do have to be like, "Okay, my partner wants to hang out with me. Deep down, I wanna work, but I know that I will feel really great if I spend time with him, and I know that this is how he's showing me love, so I'm gonna show up in this moment and be with him even though in the back of my mind, I wanna be writing a new episode or something." So, this is just an example of how you have to learn how to speak each other's love languages. I know the love language model isn't perfect. It's kind of like hit or miss, but I do think it's a good way to illustrate this green flag. So just keep this in mind as you're getting to know someone. I think this is one where people really do fumble the bag in a way. Like they do kind of mess this up because if you're so focused on receiving love the way you want and that's it, you're going to miss signals that someone's showing you love in the way that they naturally do it. And man, like I could think of so many times in past dating experiences, friendships, and relationships where I just was missing it because I was so focused on something else. And I don't want that to be you. We have to learn how to speak other love languages because then it's like you have an abundance. You have so many different ways to show each other love, which actually is a lot easier, I think, in long term relationships than just having like these rigid, like, I only want words of affirmation, fuck everything else, So I think learning this skill is great. If they already embody this skill, huge green flag. And you can think about how you can work on opening up your ability to receive love in different ways. On the red flag side, if they only accept love in their preferred way and your way of showing affection isn't what they want, or if they dismiss it or devalue it, that's going to be tough. That's a red flag for sure. And I think in early dating, if you want to test this out, you can show interest, right? Show interest in various different ways. You don't have to go over the top and do the max version of like showing love, whatever that is for you. You can do little bite size versions of how you show love and see what happens. And also be keep your heart open to how they are showing you love. And I think today's question actually gets into this a little bit. Okay, I have 3 more for you. The next one is doing mundane things together is fun. Talking errands, chores, or just sitting quietly, feels good with them. This is one of the earliest green flags I noticed with my husband when, we were waiting in line for a comedy show and I had a blast. And even now, just going to the grocery store, running errands, going to Home Depot, walking the dog, like go do these things with the person you're dating and see how it feels. If the mundane, everyday things still feel calm and pleasant, peaceful, you still feel connected, oh my god, that's a huge green flag because that's what most of your life together is gonna be if you think about it. Like, if you're in a long-term relationship, if you're in a marriage, most of the time you spend together is, like, doing mundane stuff. I can't tell you, like, how much time Johnny and I spend together in the kitchen doing dishes, unpacking groceries, cleaning, dealing with the dog, like, we are always in the kitchen together doing stuff, and even that is fun. We're like chatting or not, we're listening to music, we're in a flow together. I mean, it doesn't get better than that, in my opinion. So if you're in early dating, go do mundane things together, have them join you on your errands, see what happens. On the other side, the red flag side, if being around them feels like work, not fun, like if the mundane tasks feel awkward, stressful, or forced, there could be something up there. That's a sign that something isn't working. If you can't sit together in silence, if they're miserable to be around, like when you're doing mundane stuff, or like if you feel like you need to force interaction, that's tough. That's something to pay attention to. The next green flag is that they're excited about your goals, even if they don't relate to them. This kind of relates to the success one. And I think this is very subtle because, you could be sharing the things that you want to do and they might not like get it. They might not have the same goals, but that's not necessarily a red flag or a sign it's not going to work. I talk about alignment a lot, like having aligned values, having aligned goals in life, but there are probably smaller goals you have that they literally don't care about for themselves personally. But even if they don't care about it personally, they're still happy for you. They're still cheering you on. They still want to see you achieve those goals. Here's an example of my relationship. I just got this habit tracking app. And I told Johnny, I'm like, listen, I want to start working on my social media use. I want to start tracking some habits. And he just looks at me and he goes, we could not be more opposite. Like he would never download a habit tracker of any kind. But he's super supportive. He's asked me about it. He's been like, how's your habit tracker today? He'll like look at it with me. And that's a really cute. That's a very supportive, even though he has no desire to ever do that for himself. In terms of other goals, like he has like his career goal, I don't really relate to. He basically wants to save the planet. And I think that's wonderful. I'm a little bit more realistic. I'm like, I don't think I can save the planet, but I think I can help people get into better relationships. And, I don't relate to his goal or drive to do the work he does at NASA, but I definitely support it and respect it. So we don't need people to date who match our goals like one for one, like 100%. We need to date people who are supportive, want to see us get after it, even if they don't share the same goal, even if the thing that matters to you doesn't matter to them. Like maybe you want to run a 5K. Maybe you want to crochet all of your Christmas gifts for all of your friends and family. I don't know, whatever it is. They might not have that goal at all. They might not want to be involved, but they can still support you and cheer you on and check in with you and talk about it with you. That's very supportive, and we love to see it. On the other side, if they downplay or mock your goals, that's just miserable. Why would you ever want to be with someone who mocks your goals? And that same thing goes for you. Like, don't make fun of people's things that they're really excited about. Don't yuck their yum. If they have a goal or desire to do something that you don't relate to on any level, but you love them, you should still support them. Of course, given it's not harming them or anyone else. Like, I'm talking about things that actually make sense as goals. So if they're into something, just be into the fact that they're into it, right? Even if you don't relate to it, even if you don't get it, that's what you can do as a partner. And that's what we're looking for from our partner too. And this is your sign, by the way, in early dating to share your goals. Talk about the things you're working on. I think it makes you more attractive, right? You actually have things you care about that you're doing, and you get to test whether or not they are supportive and how they're showing you that support. Let me know what happens. Okay, the last one, this might apply to some people and less to others, but the last one is they respect your digital boundaries. So this means they don't guilt trip you for being slow to text back or needing phone breaks. I know some of you listening are like, this could not be me. I'm on my phone all the time. I text back immediately. Like, I don't take phone breaks. But some people out there definitely, they go on Do Not Disturb, they turn their phone off, they don't want to be on social media. And having a partner who respects this and doesn't like freak out every time you don't respond for a few hours is golden. Huge green flag. You want to find someone who's secure enough to handle it if you need to go off the grid for a while. And this goes for many of you listening. You need to be the green flag too here. If they need a phone break, you've got to not freak out about that and take it personally, especially if their actions are showing you that they're all in, right? And look, I think this one's a really big struggle, and I think something that a lot of us need to work on. Like, we can't expect people in dating, especially early dating, to be available at all times. It's unrealistic. How did we get here? I know we're all tethered to our phones, but still doesn't mean that we have to reply right away. It doesn't mean we have to reply the second we see something. Sometimes we can't. Like, I've been podcasting for 3 hours. My phone's been on Do Not Disturb. I've probably missed several calls and texts at this point, and that's okay. I don't owe anyone an immediate response, and nor do you, especially in early dating with someone you just met. Obviously, if it's your partner, there are ways to do this. You can say, "Hey, I'm going to be off the grid for a while." You can ask your partner to do that for you as well. But I still think that it's a green flag when you can separate someone's phone behavior a little bit from how they're actually treating you when you're in person together, how they actually feel about you. We've got to learn how to separate it a little bit so we can relax with the technology. If they ignore or disrespect your digital boundaries, like if they expect constant availability, if they get upset over slow replies or monitor your online activity, that is a red flag. That is something to ask them about. Why do you feel the need to monitor my online activity? This type of behavior is possessive, it's suffocating, and it doesn't contribute to a healthy relationship where there's trust and autonomy and independence, especially going back to one of the earlier ones we mentioned about independence, which is necessary for a healthy long term relationship. So, green flag, they respect your digital boundaries. See if you can work on this. If you're struggling with this, it's a good one to work on if you don't know where to start. So, we just went through a bunch of these green flags, and as you've listened to this list, I'm so curious to know if you think you exhibit these green flags and what you think you can work on. I also hope I inspired you to pay attention to things in your relationship that maybe you were missing. And if that's the case, this is your sign to send a text or tell your person something that you appreciate out of the blue. Showing appreciation, like I said earlier, is so important to keep a relationship healthy. So if I've said anything in this episode that your partner is really good at, go ahead and tell them, "Hey, I'm so appreciative that you do this." Here's a listener question I got the other day that is very relevant to this topic about green flags. Here goes. Hi, I've been on 2 dates with a man. I'm 45, he's 52. He's polite, attentive, plans and pays for dates. On the first date, he brought me flowers and a scented candle. On the second date, he bought me a book that he thought I would be interested to read. His texting is consistent. He compliments me and says he wants to keep seeing me. He said that his dating intention is to have a long term relationship, but he asks very few questions. I ask a lot of questions, and he reciprocates maybe just 10% of them. I let him know 3 times in different formats, playful, direct, and humorous, that genuine curiosity is very important to me because that's how you learn about a person, and that I wouldn't want to be the one who asks questions without being reciprocated, like a podcast host to a guest. Even after that, he doesn't ask me deep and interesting questions. What's your advice on how to get him to do that in a non obnoxious, warm, fun, flirty way? Or is it a lost cause and this is who he is and it's just an incompatibility in communication? Great question. Very relatable. I do have a whole episode about why people don't ask questions, but I also have an answer for this one. And my take here is that this person is exhibiting so many green flags. I mean, their texting is consistent. They're buying you gifts. They're making plans. They said their intention is long-term relationship. It seems like all their actions align with their words here, and that's wonderful. But you're stuck on that is not asking you questions. And look, I understand it's more fun to talk to someone who can have that ping pong match with you, that type of conversation where you have questions for each other. But like I would say, yeah, this is probably who he is. And I honestly think that letting someone go over this, especially someone who's exhibited so many other green flags, would be a mistake at this point. Obviously, you do what's best for you. You know the situation best. But based on the information I have, what you've shared, he sounds like a great guy. And I think that you can still have very engaging conversations with someone, even if they don't ask questions. And I think that as long as they're a good listener and they want to hear from you, meaning they give you space to talk, that's great. You don't have to wait to be asked. You don't have to wait for someone to ask you a question if there's something you want to talk about. And I understand you want someone to be curious about you. You want that's a sign of interest, but I just am worried you're going to overlook all these other signs of interest when you're so focused on this one thing. Now, in terms of improving your conversations and improving your intellectual compatibility, I would say use question cards. Dive into those 36 love questions. Google it, by the way. Just Google 36 love questions. You will find it. This is a good way to incorporate more questions without making him do something he clearly doesn't have the skills for, unfortunately. Like it's sad to say that some people just haven't learned the skill of asking questions. It doesn't mean they're not curious. It just they're just not showing curiosity in the form of asking questions. And since you've already mentioned it 3 times and he hasn't really done anything, then I think it's time to accept this. I'm also wondering, have you said this in a more explicit way? Like, there have been some dates that I've had with Johnny where I'm like, "I want you to choose 3 questions to ask me on this date." I know that sounds super weird, but, like, it's led to some awesome conversations. That's something to try with this guy. I think it's a little bit more direct because just being like, genuine curiosity is important to me. Maybe he is genuinely curious. He just isn't showing you in the exact way you're looking for, and that is turning you off when he clearly is into you. So, if it's a deal breaker for you, totally get it, but that's my take. So, I hope this answer helped, and I would love to hear from you. You know, if you have any updates, how's it going? Did this help? Let me know. You can reach out to me anytime. All right, that's all I have for you today. I want to thank you for listening. Thanks for spending this time with me. Don't forget, you're doing great. I would love it if you share the show with someone who is navigating dating and might need a little confidence boost or some tough love. If any of these episodes have helped you in your journey, you can help me by leaving a stunning review on Apple or giving Dating Intentionally 5 stars on Spotify. I'd really appreciate it. Once again, I'm Talia. This has been Dating Intentionally, and I'll see you next time.